So here we are for our workshop today on bringing wisdom to the world, which is about how existential therapy might help to understand how you live a little bit better. And I'm a little bit early because people need to gather in the waiting room. And I can see that they're already beginning to enter now. And it will be great to see everybody when they come in. And I'll probably start letting people in now so that we have a few minutes for everybody to come in. So, hello to those of you who are arriving. It's wonderful to see you. There'll be plenty of other people joining us. I see Eva there. Hi, Eva. So good
Hi.
to see you in person. Well, almost in person. Yes. And Michelle, hello. Great to see you. And Maysim, hello. And
My name's on. Hello.
hi, Deborah. Good to see you. How amazing to see some actual people there instead of just names, isn't it? Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, and I have several people here at the moment who just are called iPad at the moment. If you could put your actual names in there instead, that would, there we are. Georgios, thank you for doing that and welcome.
Darling.
And hi, admin team. So that's Helen. Helen is here. Hi, Helen. You will be looking after admitting people into the room now.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Helen. Good to see
Hello.
you here.
Morning.
Yeah,
I
hello.
can hear now.
You
Hi,
can
Emmy.
hear now. Well, that's great. That's pretty essential.
Hello from Ballarat in Australia.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. What time
Yeah,
is it there?
it's 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
That
just
actually
got 1 hour later. Yeah, just with
quite
the
well.
daylight savings coming
Yes,
in. Yeah.
yes. Okay. Well, everybody say where you are. That's great. And if you don't want to speak, you can put it in the chat. So if you open your chat, which is at the bottom there,
Emmy, hello.
you can talk. Hi, Georgios. Good to see
Nice to see you again.
you. Yeah, very good to see you. And there's
Greetings from Austria.
Nisrin from Austria. Yes. And Timothy, hi. Where are you based?
I'm Timothy. I'm based in Southport,
Southport.
yeah,
Okay.
just up from Liverpool on the coast.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And
Hi,
Deborah,
Emily. I'm
hi.
in Essex.
You're in Essex. Yeah. And Eva, you're in Israel, right?
Israel.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. And I bet you're happy about the news that's going on in politics. That's a great improvement.
Yes, I
And
am, I enjoy.
yeah, absolutely. And we haven't said hello yet to Maysim. Hi, Maysim, where are you?
Hello, I'm in United Kingdom in Winchester,
In
Hampshire.
Winchester. Okay, that's not all that far from where I am. I'm in Sussex.
Sussex.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hi, James.
Hi, good morning, Emmy.
Hi. Could you
How are
tell
you?
us where you are?
Maybe you can guess.
No. Oh, you're at the new school.
Exactly.
That's the library you're in.
Exactly.
Oh, cool. Well, that's amazing. We have the new school here. Well, and of course, Helen is at the new school as well, aren't you, Helen?
Helen's just sorted me out with a ticket at the last minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
she did. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. So we got Helen, the admin team, and James. So, James, you're a student.
I am, yeah.
The
I'm
new
based in
school.
Barbados, so I haven't really been part of the new school in person yet. So this is one of my first sallies in real life.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Okay, so Nesreen, where are you?
Hi, good morning. I'm Nasreen from Lebanon, Beirut.
Are you in Lebanon right now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's very exciting. So we got people from all over the place here. Georgios, are you in Greece or are you in London? Where are you?
As I said, I'm in Austria, and
You're in Austria.
you have been 1 month ago or 2 months ago to the University of
Freud,
Sigmund Freud. How was
Sigmund
it?
Freud University. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's great. So let's see, who haven't we heard from yet? Because there are people still joining us, so I'm losing track here a little bit. Elaine, we haven't heard from you, I'm sure.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
I'm from London. I'm in London.
Okay,
Hello.
cool. Well, that's easy enough for most of us. And there's Anya. Hi,
Good
Anya.
morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see everyone. I'm normally in London and from London, but today in Spain.
Oh, you're in
So I'm
Spain. Oh, that's exciting. Okay. And Helen, nice to see you again.
Hello, hi there. I'm in London as well.
Oh, Haran.
Good.
Okay. Yes,
Yes.
Haran. Welcome. But I was speaking to Helen there. Helen.
Oh, sorry, I misheard. I thought you said
Yeah, no,
Harren.
that's
Okay.
okay. Thank you for introducing yourselves. That's brilliant. Helen, you are in the UK as well.
I am, yes. I'm in Cornwall, and
Cornwall. Okay.
a student of yours from many years ago.
I know. I won't try to figure out how many years ago that is, but it's quite a few.
18, I think, something
18
like that.
years. Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Amazing. And Anna, you've just joined us. Welcome.
Yes,
Thank
you. Yeah,
Can you say where you are based?
I'm in.
Sorry, didn't hear that. Anna?
I'm based in Sweden.
I thought you might be, yeah.
Yeah,
Where in Sweden is that?
in Gothenburg,
In
West
Gothenburg.
Coast. Yes.
Oh, well, that's splendid. I always like to have some representation from Sweden.
Oh, well,
It's one of my very favorite countries, and I do have a little bit of history there in my family, so I have some Swedish genes, yeah.
really?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where?
Oh, well, I don't know, all over the place. But from a very early age, we went traveling to Sweden. So I went all the way up to, the north, way past, so Kiruna and places like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I've lectured often in Stockholm and in Linköping and various other places, Umeå, several other places. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for telling, and wonderful to know.
Pleasure. Yes.
Thank you.
Right, we got a few more people here who have joined us. So if I'm missing out on you, point it out. But I'm sure that Rules hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead. You say Rules is my second name. What is your first name? We can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Okay, that's me. That would be my daughter doing that. Sorry about that. It's Amelia. I'll definitely have to
Emilia.
change that.
Emilia, maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to change that.
Yeah.
I'm based in London, and I am actually Australian. I've been here a long time, since 2008.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm an accountant by trade, but started the Regent's psychotherapy training last year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
So existential, I haven't really picked a pathway yet, but it may very well be existential. So,
excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. So thank you very much for that. So I see somebody who has iPad 4 there. Can you tell us who you are?
My name's Lorna, and I'm having difficulty with my computer and my iPad. So it's Lorna.
Lorna.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Lorna, if you can change the name on there at some point.
Well, I'm a bit computer illiterate this morning, so I'm not sure.
I'm sure Helen would be able to help you, Lorna. I see that you have, that's Lorna Donaldson, is it?
That's correct, yep.
You're just about to be readmitted in another place. So there you are now. So you can use that other device, and that has your name on, and you can get out on the iPad. Okay, I'll leave you to it. Yeah. And I'm sure, I'm sure there are a few other people. Yeah, you will need to get out. You will need to turn the sound off on your iPad and get out of that, because otherwise there is this sound problem for us. Yeah, Helen, can you help that, please?
Sure.
I wonder where that's coming from, that resonance. It's gone now. Okay, Nikki, we haven't heard from you.
Okay, my name's Nikki, and I am based in Kent in the UK, down on the coast.
Right.
And I have been a psychotherapist now, practicing for 5 years in private practice. I guess you might say that existentialism is my underpinning philosophy, and that's kind of the path I take with a lot of my work.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, so here I am, interested to be here.
Well, good. So this is a more general sort of session today about various existential ideas. It's not a training session for psychotherapists. There are many people here that are psychotherapists and many people that are not psychotherapists. So I will keep things fairly simple as much as I can. Sometimes it's a bit hard to do. Now, there are several people whose pictures I cannot see, but I know, Azad, you haven't introduced yourself, so over to you.
Good morning, everyone. You've taken me by surprise. I wasn't expecting such a small personal group, and I thought I could leave the camera off and just hide in the background and listen and absorb this morning. But no, this is great. So I live in Buckinghamshire.
Okay.
And I'm just beginning my journey. In fact, Anya is my tutor on the foundation course.
Fantastic. That's
So
lovely
yeah,
to hear.
yeah.
Lovely to hear. Great stuff. Well, I'm sure you will find it very interesting today then. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I think, John, you haven't said anything yet. Is that right?
No, I haven't. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Oh, I'm joining from a coffee shop in Edinburgh. I had planned to be at home,
Edinburgh.
but I'm just about to go to an induction for my placement. I'm a trainee psychotherapist, so that's why I might have to drop out just before one, but I'm delighted to be here.
Good. Well, you're very welcome. It's lovely to have representation from Scotland. Always a good thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
William, we haven't heard from you yet either, have we?
No, you haven't. I am calling in from Malaysia. So I live in Kuala Lumpur, but my accent is not Malaysian. I grew up in the US, so I've been here for about 8 years. And I'm on my second year-ish in a counseling program.
Okay, fantastic. Lovely to have somebody from Malaysia as well. What time is it there?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay, so that works quite well timing-wise. Now, who haven't we heard from? We haven't heard from Luciano, from Arte.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Luciano.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Hi.
I am from Mexico, but I'm based now in Vancouver, Canada.
In
It's
Canada.
very early here, it's 3 a.m.
Okay. Well, you're bringing multicultural
Sure.
backgrounds. That's fantastic. So
Thank
we
you.
got Mexico and we got Canada all in one person. That is very wonderful. Thank you for being here. Artem? Hi.
Hi, I'm Artem and I'm from Russia. So
Russia.
I have a bit of an accent, I think. Yeah, and I'm a therapist in training, existential therapist. So
Are you in training in Russia?
yeah,
So where in Russia are you based?
I'm based in Kazan, Tatarstan. It's
okay.
in the middle.
Right in the middle of Russia, a long way away from London. Yes. That's fantastic. It's very lovely to have you here. It's amazing to have people zooming in like that from all over the world, isn't it? It's a great privilege to find this group coming together like that. Thank you. Chrissa, We haven't heard from you yet. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I am from Greece and I live in Rethymno, Crete, if you have heard of it.
Okay, fantastic. So are you in the field of psychotherapy?
Yes, I try to work as an existential psychotherapist. Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, so another person with previous knowledge. It's important for me to have a sense of the different levels in the group. Thanks, Krissa. Sasha, are you here? Hi.
Hi, I'm from Russia too, like Artyom.
Okay, do
But
you know
now
each other?
what?
No. You don't know each other.
We know each other.
You do know each other. Okay, well done.
And I'm psychologist, but now I'm in Buenos Aires. I spent some months here. Yes.
So you again are representing two different cultures in one. That's pretty amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for introducing yourself. Alina, we haven't heard from you yet.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm not a psychologist, but for two decades, I'm the biggest fan of Irvin Yalom, and that's how I got interested in existential movement. And yeah. So I'm from Ukraine. I live in UK for the last 17 years.
Okay.
And, yeah.
17 years. That's a very long time. Yes.
Yeah. I came here to work and stayed. There's nothing more permanent than temporary things in your life.
True, it's true.
So,
Yeah.
And actually, my daughter was going to the Montessori nursery, which is very close to the institute that you organize, and that's where I saw it. And I've been following you for some five years, probably. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great.
In
So
North London,
you're
in
near the new
in
School of
Horsham Green.
Psychotherapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very cool. It's very cool that you picked it up like that, just seeing it from the outside, as it were. That's really nice. So welcome, everybody. Who have I missed? I'm sure I must have missed one or two people, or have you all spoken? Anybody? No. Amelia? Yes.
I was Rules. I changed my name to Amelia now, so we've
That's
spoken.
very helpful. Thank you. Good. Okay, so please keep your sound off, your microphones off whilst I am talking, because it's better for the sound quality. But feel free to put your hand up if you have questions and to come in. I'm going to launch into a PowerPoint presentation and talk a lot to you about things, but I'm very happy in these 2 hours for it to be quite fluid and to have conversations and for you to, as I say, ask questions or add things or disagree or whatever you want to put in will be extremely helpful. So I'm going to launch into this presentation now, and I'll take you through that, and you should all see that now. And as you know, this workshop is called Bringing Wisdom to the World, Applied Philosophy as Existential Therapy. So that is what I do, basically. As a philosopher, I started working in psychiatry and seeking to bring philosophical ideas into a therapeutic way of working. This workshop was organized by the Existential Academy, and Helen Araromi is here representing the Existential Academy, of which she is the administrator. And the Existential Academy is based in London, in West Hampstead, and it is the base for the New School of Psychotherapy and Counseling, but it is also a community interest company, a not-for-profit community interest company, to bring things to the wider community of what we can contribute. It also has other organizations. The Federation for Existential Therapists in Europe is based here, and the existential movement is based here as well. We offer continuing professional development for professionals. We offer a full existential training, and we offer short courses for the general public, and this is one of those. So, as I said, the Existential Academy has the New School of Psychotherapy and Counseling, often known as NSPC, where we run 5 courses with Middlesex University. So all of our students are Middlesex University students, but we are independent and we work closely with Middlesex, and Middlesex provides the qualifications to people, the postgraduate certificates, the diplomas, but also these 5 master's degrees and these 2 doctoral degrees. And those are all accredited by various organizations. I won't bore you with all of those details. By the way, if anything seems of interest to you, have your mobile phone ready, take a picture of the screen so that you can look at it later on, or take a screenshot. If you know how to take a screenshot, that can also be quite helpful. So there we go. The existential movement is what I focus on a lot at the moment. It has as its motto, bringing wisdom to the world. So this presentation is very much about what the existential movement stands for and what it does. It also has an annual conference, and this year it will be in February, online, and you're all invited to that. And it will be called the Festival of Life, and we will have lots of art, poetry, music, and lots of different things. I also want to point out my YouTube channel, and there are several people in the group today who have gotten to know me from my YouTube channel, which is called Emmy's Existential Zone. And you can reach that by going into YouTube and then doing @Existential Zone, and then you'll see this page below. And you'll find there something like 1,100 videos about existential issues. And I hope you will find something that you like and that you will want to subscribe. And perhaps even, like Eva and Deborah here, become a member of the inner circle on my Existential Zone, because I give live sessions every Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. UK time, and I do readings from my books that people look at, and then they can ask me any questions they want on a Sunday afternoon. So this is a bit more about me. These are the 20 academic books I have published to date. I won't go into it, but that is just a sort of background from which I draw when I give talks. And this, if you're interested in existential therapy or working as a psychotherapist, this is the one you should absolutely have a look at, because it is the kind of, well, the Wiley World Handbook for Existential Therapy. It says it all. It is a book that was put together over 625 pages in 6 parts about Dasein's analysis, existential phenomenological therapy, existential humanistic and integrative, logotherapy, international developments, and group therapy. So it has covered the whole field, and it has lots and lots of information, but it's obviously quite a technical book and not really suitable for a wider public, but very suitable for existential therapists. There's also this book that came out earlier this year, co-authored by Claire Arnold Baker, who is the principal of NSPC, and myself, on structural existential analysis. And I will be talking a little bit about SEA, structural existential analysis, but that is quite, again, a technical approach. It is a method of doing phenomenological research about life. I'll come back to that. This is my current project. I have submitted the final manuscript to the publishers for this book, which will be a trade book, which is my first trade book. And this will be published at the same time by Penguin, actually in its Alan Lane version, which is very sophisticated. I'm very proud of that. And by HarperCollins as a paperback in the United States. And that cheerful and joyful event will happen on the 14th of May next year. So that is what I'm currently working on. I'm currently working with the publishers on the legal aspects of the book. So there is a solicitor reading through the book to find any points that people might take me to court over, to make sure we change those. I had no idea you did that. You don't do that for academic books. So a very interesting process altogether. So all of this brings the idea of existential therapy into view. What is existential therapy? It is a therapy that helps people looking at their lives rather than focusing on their personal or psychological problems. It does do that as well, but it gives them a wider perspective. It seeks to inspire people to live with greater wisdom. So that is why we have this title today. Wisdom obviously cannot be taught. It's something each and every one of us slowly discovers through living in a reflective way, by being thoughtful about the way you live each day of your life, and the way in which you make sense of your experience and your feelings and your sensations and your relationships. And when you're in existential therapy, you learn to do that more intensively. It's really about creating a deeper relationship with yourself and all the ways in which you are in the world, and to get a much greater understanding of how that is. My own inspiration is very often that of ancient Greek philosophies, which were the start of Western philosophy, but I'm also very interested in Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism, from which I have also drawn quite a lot in my work. Socrates has always been my guide, as it were, my role model in life from very early on, probably when I was about 13. And I was doing a classical education and, learning about Plato and taking a shine to Socrates. And he said, the unreflective life is not worth living. And I decided very early on at that time that I would live a reflective life and I would make my life worthwhile, no matter what would happen to me. And Plato's allegory, his story about the cave, has always been a great inspiration to me, because in that he showed a metaphor for human existence, saying, human beings live in a kind of darkness inside of this cave where they sit behind a wall, as you can see these people here sitting behind this wall and looking at shadows on the wall in front of them, where images are reflected, well, shadows of images are reflected because of a fire behind the wall. It's quite a complex story. Imagine in today's world, it is like people living in a virtual world where they look at images on their screens rather than the real stuff that is happening in the world. That is what we can do to understand this story. And for Plato, the objective of life is to learn to open your eyes, get rid of your chains, get up, get moving out of the cave and come out into the light of day as that guy who has climbed out of the cave. And because Plato said that guy is a philosopher, I decided I would study philosophy and become somebody who got out of the cave. Of course, when you get to study philosophy, it often feels like a cave where people are arguing with each other about things that are hardly of any importance. So I have been very selective in what I have focused on in my philosophy in later years. And these are some of the things we use in existential therapy. Now, I'm not going to belabor this because for the people who are not existential therapists, this will be a lot to take on board. So very briefly, we take ontology into account, which is to understand how life works, what we know about being, what modes of being there are, and really get to the bottom of how a particular person is living in what particular way. We use meiotics, which is Plato's thing. Meiotics means to be a midwife, and to be a midwife of the psyche, of the soul, to bring out that which is hidden but is true, find the essences of things and clarify things through definitions and Socratic dialogue. Then we use something called hermeneutics, and hermeneo in Greek means to interpret, and the word hermeneutics has been used to make interpretations that are not based in one particular model or dogma, but that are based on what the person themselves believe and feel is true. So it's a new kind of interpretation, not like a Freudian or a Jungian interpretation, but an interpretation that varies with each person. And it is ultimately each person themselves who needs to interpret the meanings in their lives. We use heuristics, which is to check back with your personal experiences in a very direct and subjective way to verify objective truth. Does this make sense to you? Does this feel right? What do you think is wrong with that? Really learn to trace what matters and what does not matter. And then I'm a very great fan of dialectics, which goes all the way through the history of philosophy, starting with Plato, really well, Socrates, and coming back very strongly with Hegel. So dialectics is about working with opposites, holding tensions, and instead of compromising between two opposing, conflicted ideas, finding how those opposing ideas fit together in the wider scheme of things. So it's about transcending them and transforming them. There are many philosophers and different schools of philosophy that are relevant. You might want to take a picture because I'm going to switch away from this almost immediately. We just don't have time for this kind of theoretical stuff today. But all of that, can be taught. There are many existential practitioners and different schools of existential work. There are the pioneers, the Daseinsanalysts, the humanistic existential ones, which is basically the American school, the existential integrative ones, the logotherapists, and then the existential phenomenological school, which is basically my work, which was based in Ronald Lang's work and in my own ideas. Now, one of the outstanding philosophers in this field is Karl Jaspers, because Karl Jaspers was both a psychiatrist and a philosopher, and he is instrumental in sort of bringing all of this together. And he has inspired many other people, but he's not that well known himself. One of the things that he has had the most impact with is that he spoke about limit situations. He said, I must die, I must suffer, I must struggle, I am subject to chance, and I involve myself inexorably in guilt. We call these fundamental situations of our existence ultimate situations. And here they are. He recognized in particular these 4 limit situations. And some other people, Paul Tillich, for instance, spoke about similar things, and he then influenced Irv Yalom, who used these ideas of limit situations very strongly in his work. But for Jaspers, they were a little different. So Jaspers spoke about struggle as one limit situation, the fact that we have to fight for our survival and that we inevitably will be confronted with suffering. That is a very important point to recognize and to honor, really, in people's lives. And secondly, we all know that we're going to die eventually. So we need to understand how that awareness of our mortality affects us, and how sometimes when we're afraid, it is some of that fear that is being shaded into our lives in many different forms and shapes, a bit like those tree branches, there are sort of reminders of death in autumn like that, and each branch that is losing its leaves is a reminder of mortality. Thirdly, for Jaspers, it is chance or hazard, the fact that we live with uncertainty and we can never take anything for granted, and we do not know what fate will bring. And fate will bring things into our lives that are astonishingly bad sometimes, and, completely destroying all of our sense of who we are. And sometimes also amazing opportunities, but then we have to learn to see them. And fourthly, for Jaspers, it was guilt. That we engage in things that work out to have bad consequences and that we are responsible for. So that we are always guilty to some extent. And more than that, we are always guilty because we still owe an existential debt to life. We haven't yet done all the things we can do in life. And we often feel a niggle in ourselves, like I could do better at this, or really I ought to get on with that, or I haven't called my parents, or, you know, existential guilt about things you haven't actually done and should be doing, rather than guilt about things you've done that were wrong. So Jaspers is also known for something else, which is the possibility of understanding another in a very direct way, which we now know as empathy. But he actually in German spoke about Einfühlung, which literally means to feel into something. And he actually spoke about this as being about stepping into somebody's shoes, but more than that, participating in another person's pain in a very direct way. And you can only do this if you're certain that you're safe in your own life and in your own universe. And you can only do it as a therapist if you're prepared to keep checking back with the other that you're actually understanding it accurately, that you're not just identifying, but that you're correctly resonating with what it is that's going on for them. The other person that influenced me a lot is the psychiatrist and psychotherapist Ludwig Binswanger. He spoke about different modes of being, and in that he was inspired also by Martin Buber's work. So Binswanger recognized 4 modalities of being with others. And he said, it's all about mutuality, which is like Jasper's thing, you know, of feeling into the other's world. It's all about mutuality and doing this for each other, connecting with each other. But in fact, if you look at everyday life, it doesn't work like that. Many people just relate in an anonymous mode. They basically relate to other people as if they are in a collective and mute world, and as if really other people are just objects and automata. So it's a very distancing world, a world where you never really know what the other feels and experiences, and where it doesn't matter, because you have decided that you are going to just be in that way. That's easier. You don't engage too much. Secondly, there is what he called the plural mode of relating, which is when we enter into formal relationships, where we have to compete and struggle for dominance. We find ourselves living life as if it is a constant fight. It's Jasper's struggle as well, and a grappling for power. He also recognized the singular mode, which is that of our relationship to ourselves. He also spoke about the Eigenwelt, your inner world. It is about an inward self-relating, where you can learn to be in harmony with yourself and the world. And you can then bring this outwards in how you are with other people too. And that leads to the 4th one, which is the dual mode of relating, which is that of intimacy with a single other person. It's very much like Martin Buber's I-thou relating instead of I-it relating. And that means to honor the other, to see the other as sacred, as the representation of all there is, of possibility, of wholeness. So this opens you up to a relationship to the infinite as well. So this is where I started out really when I started working in psychiatry. Those were my main influences. But of course, that is nearly 53 years ago, when I went to work in this hospital that you see at the bottom right there, which is the hospital of Saint-Alban in the Massif Central in France, in the Auvergne. And that was built around this castle. And in the 40s, in the Second World War, the walls around that hospital were deliberately destroyed because François Tosquelles, a Spanish psychiatrist, decided that Saint-Alban should be a place to welcome anybody who was escaping from oppression and not just be a psychiatric asylum. And vice versa, the people in the asylum should be free to choose whether the place was safe enough to stay in or whether they wanted to get away. It was a very bold adventure, and it led to amazing establishment of ways of working with people that I won't go into too much, but I worked there for several years, and it taught me an enormous amount about how we can be creative in our work. I will be speaking about that in a couple of weeks in the flesh at the building at the top there, which is Kingsley Hall. So Kingsley Hall, I mean, you can see there are many other experiments in mental health, and some of them are more existential than others, but most of these experiments are based in these kinds of existential ideas of liberating people and helping them understand life better, instead of considering that they're mentally ill when they feel they cannot cope with the world. So Kingsley Hall is where R.D. Laing and David Cooper created another experiment, which was an existential experiment to live with people who had been in mental hospitals without them taking any medication and them living out their madness. So I came to the UK in 1977 after having worked in psychiatry for 4 or 5 years, invited to come work and stay in a therapeutic community with Joe Burke and Morty Schatzman, who had been the colleagues of Ronnie Laing at Kingsley Hall. Now, Laing, in his book The Divided Self, which I think is still well worth reading, had decided that madness was a transformative experience of metanoic change, which was a bit like a shamanic journey. And he said, the individual in ordinary circumstances of living may feel more unreal than real, more dead than alive. And so he needs to learn to come to life. He may not have a sense of their own consistency or cohesiveness, may feel insubstantial and unable to assume that they're genuine or good or real. And so they are divorced from their body. They are experiencing ontological insecurity. So here is a picture of one of the therapeutic communities that I was involved with, where we would, spend a lot of time around tables talking about things in small groups or one-to-one or sometimes in larger groups to try and work these things out in practice. but it also meant, in very difficult circumstances of quite a lot of poverty as well, and misery often. So I was in the Arbors Association with Berg and Schatzman, and from there started to teach on the Arbors training program, teaching existential psychotherapy, which I had already put together in my own mind through my own experiences and my philosophical background. So that is from 1978 onwards. And then from 1978 onwards, I also started to teach for Antioch University, which had a master's program in London. And I was able to become the director of that program, turn it into an existential training program, which I then moved to Regent's College, where I founded the Society for Existential Analysis in 1988, began to publish all these books. 1996, moved away from Regent's College. We shan't talk about the circumstances of that. And created with my husband, Digby Tantum, the New School of Psychotherapy and Counseling, which two people are at today at the Existential Academy, which we created in 2014. Well, really 2010, but the building was created in 2014. And in 2015, we organized the first World Congress of Existential Therapy in London. People from all over the world, 650 people came in an amazing 4-day event where we really put together a worldwide school of existential therapy. So psychotherapy from this perspective is an attempt of two people to recover the wholeness of being human through the relationship between them, said Lang. And it is always a research, a search constantly reasserted and reconstituted for what we have all lost, and which some can perhaps endure a little bit more easily than others. And some people feel they're running out of oxygen to live in that way. So it is about recognizing that society does a lot of harm to people and that it is difficult for some people in certain circumstances to preserve their identity, and they typically get experiences of engulfment where they fear being flooded and overwhelmed, of implosion, of feeling like they're going into a black hole, or petrification or depersonalization, where they become like a thing, or where they're scared that other people will turn them to a thing. So what Lang said is we need to allow ourselves to have a breakthrough out of that way of working. I would say to get out of the cave, instead of having a breakdown, find your way out. I will be speaking much more about all this side of things at this conference, one-day conference at Kingsley Hall in East London on the 20th of October. If you're interested, take a picture. You can find it also by just Googling Radical Hospitality, Compassionate Mental Health, 20 October. And that is a one-day sort of pop-up therapeutic community where I will be speaking about my experiences in psychiatry mainly. Another person who was very important in this whole moving away from the old ways of doing things towards a more existential way was Thomas Szasz, who was originally from Hungary and who was a colleague and a friend for much of my career until his death, really. And he said that more and more people are going to need to go through this process of a kind of existential psychotherapy in order to liberate themselves from what enslavement the society they live in has wreaked on them. His book, The Myth of Mental Illness, is still a radical book worth a read, even though it's this old, 1961. And he said that mental illness is just a metaphor for being actually disabled by living. It's not a disease or a disorder. He was against all coercion. Now, all of these things were happening, and out of that, there was this movement of existential ideas having been brought to the United States, mainly by Paul Tillich, the theologian, who taught Rollo May. Rollo May, picture on the left, was the pupil of Paul Tillich and wrote for his doctoral thesis with Paul Tillich a book called The Meaning of Anxiety, which is well worth a read. And Paul Tillich, as his tutor, in reply, wrote a little book called The Courage to Be, well worth a read. And out of this work came lots and lots of things, including humanistic psychology, also through the work of Friedrich Perls and Wilhelm Reich, who also moved to the United States. And eventually, Irv Yalom came to the conclusion. Irv Yalom, of course, picture on the right, a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who worked with groups and came to realize that what made people actually change in the group process were lots of group issues, and he's written many books about group psychotherapy, but that it was really grappling with existential issues that changed them. And so he began to write about existential therapy sometime through the middle of his career. And he published this book, Existential Psychotherapy, in 1981, which was a very welcome thing to me because there was suddenly a current voice other than my own. And before too long, that voice became very loud indeed as he wrote book after book. And he really took the attention of many people towards this possibility of understanding things. Read any of Yalom's books and it will inform you about these existential concepts and the way you can move forward. Now, what Yalom didn't do is to use phenomenology. My own approach has always been very solidly rooted in the method of phenomenology. I will not speak about that today. That's again a different presentation, a more academic presentation on what phenomenology is and how it is about intentionality and intuition and bracketing your assumptions and being aware that as a subject you're always doing something in a world where you relate to objects. There's always those three elements. And so in order to understand anything, you need to analyze what's happening in all those three places. And so there are these three reductions you can do to come to a better understanding. We will leave it there. Husserl came to speak a lot about intersubjectivity because he became aware that it is only if we understand what is happening between people that we can really understand what is happening. It's a bit like people have realized in quantum physics that it is only when you understand the relationships between particles and waves and between the observer of particles and waves and how all of that is related together that we will ever fully understand reality. The other character who obviously has influenced me a lot and who I wrote my doctorate in philosophy about is Martin Heidegger, but he is such a controversial figure, having actually joined the Nazi party for a year and done some very unpleasant things to his colleagues in the university. But he is a very significant existential philosopher, and you can't really ignore him. Let's just have one quote from him. As soon as man comes to life, he is at once old enough to die. He is the champion of reminding us of our mortality and of reminding us of how we try to evade and close this off, how we keep our anxiety at bay all of the time. And in this respect, Heidegger does teach us a great deal, because he describes how people allow themselves to become fascinated by the world of physical things and technology, and basically forget themselves in that process, and how people are fallen in with other people, with trends and fashions, and how they let themselves be dispersed into all of those movements and all of those things that other people want from them or say to them. So they become taken over by the anonymous they who don't actually exist. And so inside of yourself, what you do a lot is you shelter away from those influences of the things in the world and the people in the world, to tranquilize yourself, to protect yourself. But by doing so, you're backing away from what is really important. Alina, I think your sound is on. Could you switch it up? Thanks. And that comfort seeking also stops you engaging. So you live in a closing off, a covering up, you're non-transparent, you're fleeing from the challenges of life. You become distracted, irresolute, and alienated. This is what he calls inauthentic living, where you negate the difficulties and your limits. It is an unowned existence, and it is not the way to be. Heidegger said anxiety individualizes you. It calls you back to your own experience. It stops you falling in with others, and it makes you aware that you have options, that you have choices between living in an inauthentic way, taken over by the world, or doing the hard work of becoming authentic. Of course, Heidegger stole most of this from Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher of the beginning of the 19th century, a very important person and influence in my life too. He saw anxiety as a source of energy, as life energy, rather than a symptom of illness. He said, when you feel anxious, you feel dizzy, and that is the dizziness of freedom. And he added, whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the ultimate. And I think that is very much at the core of existential work, enabling people to discover that their anxiety is life-giving rather than a symptom of mental illness, and that they can stand it, and that they can learn to live with this energy and to approach the beauty of the world and the unknown factors in the world, the whole adventure of living in a new, more courageous way. So existential courage, yeah, it's the courage to be that Tillich wrote about, but it is also Kierkegaard. And of course, we cannot pass by the history of philosophy without mentioning Friedrich Nietzsche, the prototypical existential philosopher, who spoke about learning to love your fate and your destiny in all its manifestations. And he spoke about that as amor fati, Latin for the love of fate. And he also spoke about something called eternal recurrence, which is to imagine yourself being in a situation, a bit like Sisyphus, really, where you will have to relive this moment or this day to eternity, over and over again. And it is an amazing trick when you start to grab a hold like that, as Nietzsche tells you to, of every minute of your life and think, what if this drop of life and the way I am making this my own, what if this were to be the template for everything else that will happen for the rest of my life and maybe to eternity? It makes it matter a great deal more. It is like it focuses you and it helps you rethink how you live very sharpishly. And of course, Nietzsche spoke about out of that surpassing yourself, stretching across the divide between animal and the divine, and going across the abyss to become what he called an Übermensch, Superman, a transhuman, if you like, a person who goes beyond and above what he was or she was previously. The other one I want to mention is Paul Ricoeur, because he spoke a lot about dialogue, and dialogue is kind of the key to all of this work. Not just dialogue between two people, but actually also your inner dialogue. So Paul Ricoeur is a French philosopher, and he spoke about finding knowledge, and that you can only come to knowledge through dialogue. And that dialogue always involves you in exploring the archaeology or the history of what you're experiencing, the landscapes of your past, but also the teleology, the future, where you're going and what you are imagining. So in terms of temporality, there is a constant altering of meanings as you flow through your life. So this is the objective of an existential dialogue, whether that takes place with a partner, in a family, in a training group, in a psychotherapy session, or with yourself, or an online session, maybe on YouTube. The aim of an existential dialogue is to enable all participants in that dialogue to get a little bit further with the process of searching for truth in their lives, and to learn to become more enthusiastic, more passionate about their lives. And I find that when we become more passionate whilst searching for truth, we also automatically become more compassionate. And as we search for truth, we also find an inner authority, because we discover that that inner truth can be the place in which we shine a light on the outside world where we're looking for truth. So it's about learning to think for yourself. And you can only learn to think for yourself if you can compare what you're thinking in a dialogical way with what somebody else is thinking. So all of this is about getting a better and better understanding of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be alive. And you will see that it is often about your intentionality, you know, the phenomenological thing. It's about how you use the focus of your consciousness and how you have purpose and direction in how you move forward in your life, how you aim your understanding. But you also come across paradox and the possibility of dialectics. You encounter the paradox of freedom and responsibility and the paradox of life and death, for instance. In dialogue, you also find your talents and you strengthen them, and you also come to respect and care for your own vulnerability. And that will never go. You will always still have this inner vulnerability if you're truthful. So your temporality is one of the focal points, but there are many others. One of the things you can learn to do when you engage in listening and in paying attention in a dialogue is that it starts usually from what somebody experiences about something. For instance, they're angry about something. But what you look for underneath that feeling is what it means. And that means, what is the value that is under attack? Or what is the value the person is aiming for? So in anger, it's always something that's being taken away that the person wants to hold on to. And then you learn to do some research to figure out what it is that's actually threatened. And if it is threatened and how it is threatened, you investigate. You don't just stick with the feeling or the value. You find the facts and you investigate, because that's how you come to understand it better. And that's how you can also begin to see that there is a new situation arising out of this struggle. So what is the reality of the struggle, and what does it point us towards? What are the possibilities? What is my future freedom? What is my capacity? How can I build capacity and resilience? How can I transform and shift a level? Now here is a picture of my own tutor in the early 1970s, long dead of course, the philosopher Michel Henry, who taught me at the University of Montpellier in the south of France. And he wrote a book called Material Phenomenology. Now this is for serious existential psychotherapists and philosophers. He also wrote a book called The Essence of Manifestation, which was really the only book he had written when he taught me. And he spoke and taught me that most of phenomenology as a research method, as a scientific method, is about things. It's about the things that are visible and measurable in the world, like science. But that really human beings are truly revealed in our pathos, in our suffering, in our feelings. And when we suffer losses, or are bullied or denied, we become more open to that suffering. And this is how we begin to understand ourselves. So our thoughts and feelings, although they are not tangible and not out there in the world, are very much alive. It's our interiority that needs to be understood more clearly. So it is something that I aimed to do with my work, how to enable people to find that clarity about their interiority without thinking about that interiority simply in psychological or psychopathological terms. Another inspiration is Simone de Beauvoir, who said, when I was a child, when I was an adolescent, books saved me from despair that convinced me that culture was the highest of values. I resonated with that when I read Simone de Beauvoir, because obviously books have been guideposts in my life too. And learning from the wisdom of others is something that I greatly value. We have to learn to live, though, in the real world, and we can only truly come to life by living it and by loving. So Simone de Beauvoir wrote a little book called Ethics of Ambiguity, and if you're up for a little bit of stretching and philosophy, that's a good one to read. And in there she said, to will oneself free is also to will others free. Authentic love is based in reciprocity, not in dominance or submission or devotion. We can only learn to love truly after our heart is broken, she said as well. And she also said that we all slide towards death. This is really taken from Heidegger. But she said, we discover that every movement toward death is actually what makes our life. And she also said to will oneself moral and to will oneself free are one and the same decision, because you cannot be free without understanding how your freedom may block other people or impede other people. So you can only be free if you also pursue the freedom of others and you see the totality of existence in that way. Now, of course, her lifelong companion, Jean-Paul Sartre, is an immensely important character in the history of existential philosophy. And he said, man is characterized above all by his going beyond a situation and by what he succeeds in making of what he has been made. So you are given lots of things from the world, lots of things are imposed on you as well, but you always have the capacity to alter it, to do something with it, to go beyond what you have been given. And that going beyond, that process of moving to a new future where you make a claim to creating how you want to live, is what he called the project. The project is what each and every one of us is. At the beginning of his career, Sartre thought that we can all be radically free. Towards the end of his career, in this interview with the New Left Review, he said, "This is the limit I would today accord to freedom. Freedom is a small movement which makes of a totally conditioned social being someone who does not render back completely what his conditioning has given him." So he discovered, as we discover in existential therapy every day, that people cannot just claim their freedom. They have to come to it in very small ways and build it day after day after day. It is a small bit of progress that we make each time we reflect on things. And what existential therapists do is to help you in that process, to help you see in what ways you let yourself be blocked and oppressed and stopped in your tracks, and how you can make small shifts in your understanding and the way you live. So I like to say that existential therapists are the guardians of the art of living, and that living really is an art in its own right, and that anyone can learn that, and that most of us are trying to learn to get better at living. It's about weaving different strands of life together in a meaningful whole. But it's complicated because there's so many things that happen all at once, all of the time. So what we do in existential therapy is that we hold open a space, a clearing, as Heidegger would say, where truth can show up in the same way in which light shows up, as in this picture, amongst lots of things. Suddenly there is somewhere where light shines, and we know, we remember, suddenly we have this epiphany. It can be different. Yes, I can understand things. Yes, I can alter the situation, regardless of how hard it is and how hard I'm suffering and how difficult all these other people around me make it for me. I can still find that clearing, and I can find and create my own space, my own time, my own values, my feelings, understand the paradoxes with which I live, find new purpose. I can illuminate my life. It's not the same as becoming enlightened in a Buddhist way. It's about becoming a source of light and throwing light out there. It's about bringing light into the world. And here I must mention Viktor Frankl, who obviously also did this existential search in his life, already when he was in the concentration camps, but particularly afterwards, and where one of the things he contributed was to realize that what matters, what brings meaning to a person's life, so this is wisdom, really, what brings meaning and value in your life is if you can learn to take things from the world. We're going backwards here. I don't know what's happening. Forwards again. There we are. The things we take from the world are things like nuggets that we collect and that make our life shine up, make it better, make us feel hopeful. And then there have to be the creative values, which are the things you can give to the world. And I think it is this change between just taking from the world or seeking to get as much good stuff as you can, to learning to contribute something to the world that makes all the difference. But thirdly, of course, he spoke very memorably about attitudinal values, which is how we deal with the moments where we cannot take good things from the world because everything is bleak, and we haven't got the strength to be creative either because it's so hard. At those points, we need to learn how to suffer and how to still create meaning or still perceive meaning. And that is what he did. Meaning making is a very complex thing, but I think it is the core of finding wisdom. We feel best as human beings when we do put things together. You know, when you know that 2 and 2 make 4, and this strand of life fits with this strand of life, and I'm weaving it together. That is when I'm feeling this sense of connectivity to the world, to truth, to myself, to the other people around me. When it all fits together like that, it feels really good. That means that I am connecting things. In Latin, religare, that's where the idea of religion came from originally, to figure out how everything fits together. So putting the pieces of the puzzle together is very much what you do when you go on this journey of existential understanding. And that is about meaning making, because meaning is when you get a sense of the whole picture and you know, most of all, that you can make sense of how that fits together and that it feels right because it fits. And you feel that click. You know this is truth and you know that you can keep doing that. And that feels really like you're going somewhere. And you get a sense of how, you know, the algorithm of life fits together and how these connections all link and all have bonds and connections between them. And then you discover that what makes you feel worst is when connections are severed and suddenly nothing makes sense anymore. It is literally as if the wires between you and life and the world and other people are snapped. And this might happen at many levels of your life at the same time, and that is what we call going through an existential crisis. Pretty certain that all of you will have had that experience and that you will realize that actually the same happens in your brain, because meaning also comes through your mind and your brain creating connectivity. All of your neurons are interconnected with lots of synapses. And that connectivity, the more that connects up, the more sense it makes, the more you feel at peace and at ease in your inner world. The more adaptable you are, the more flexible you are to take back into account new information and make those new synaptic connections, the better it will feel. So, adaptability is a key concept for wisdom. To understand how human beings are going to adapt to the challenges facing us is going to be a crucial element for the future survival of humanity. To be flexible and to have that neuroplasticity will help us dynamically evolve into a new kind of human beings. And this is very interesting. As you get older, of course, you lose some of this connectivity, but it's now been shown that what might happen if you live in the right way throughout your life, that what is being left out are the things that are no longer relevant to you. So there is a kind of natural tuning and pruning. And I actually think that the wisdom of the elderly is like that. It is a simplification of what seemed overwhelmingly complex before and a letting go, but a better connectivity between the things that truly matter. So, how does it all connect? Well, I use a system which I've mentioned before called SEA, Structural Existential Analysis, to actually be systematic about these things and not impressionistic, and to be able to speak with some authority about what is happening in a person's life. And therefore, you can use this system for research as well. So this is it in a nutshell. SEA is about 7 different things, 7 different ways in which we undo the knots of a person's life by using phenomenology and using the system of looking at our own bias, our assumptions, and how to clarify what is really there. Secondly, we use philosophical methods, and I've already mentioned those like ontology and dialectics and hermeneutics. We look at how a person is in space, on 4 dimensions, which I will mention, how a person is in time on 4 dimensions of time, how they handle the conflicts and paradoxes in their lives, and how they can do that in a more dialectical, forward-moving way, and how they are with their passions and their feelings, and for that I use the emotional compass, and how they have their purpose and values and intentionality and direction in life. Time, space, passion, purpose, reductions, dialogue, phenomenology, paradox, philosophy. You don't have to remember it, but if you're going to get serious about being an existential therapist or researcher, that will help. This will help you in a much simpler way to think about the 4 dimensions on which you live, how you connect up on the physical dimension, on a social dimension, on a personal dimension, and then at the center of you in a spiritual way. So your spiritual dimension is where you make sense, where you make meaning, where you do this connecting up of ideas. It's the sphere of meanings and ideas. The personal dimension is that interiority that Michel Henry spoke about, your inner world, where you create a sense of selfhood and you become clear about how you want to be with yourself. The social dimension is how you relate to the other people in the world. And of course, we use our emotions a lot in that process. The physical dimension is where we relate to the physical world and the things in this world. There are many different ways of looking at these 4 dimensions. We don't have time to go into that, so I'll leave that behind. This is a simpler way of looking at it. Look at the opposites you're dealing with at each dimension. At the physical dimension, you use your sensations and your actions to find your way in the physical environment. It's your body in the physical world. You're working towards survival. You deal with things. The oppositions are life and death. In the social world, you use your feelings to understand your relationships. You seek to belong, to be acknowledged through communication with others, and the opposites are love and hate. At the personal dimension, it's all about your thoughts, your memories. You create a sense of identity, but also of freedom. It's about your selfhood, your me, and the opposites are strength and weakness. Spiritual dimension, it's about your intuitions and the meanings and values, the beliefs and the purpose of your life. It's about your worldview and your ideas, and the oppositions are about because what is good and what is bad or evil, if you like. So these are different ways of creating 16 areas of life, and so you can start annotating where a person's problems are occurring, at what level of their 4 worlds and their 4 dimensions this is happening. We shall not go into Heidegger there. This is what we do with time, looking at the figure 8 of eternity, which is kind of the flow of time that is happening behind us, but how in our own lives, what we're actually dealing with is trying to be in a circular way in the present But we cannot do that because the present launches us back into the past. And so we go over stuff from the past, which we then take back into the circle of the present, which then launches us into worries about the future or planning for the future. And we take that back into the present. So it's like a double figure of 8 that we're constantly flowing through. This is where we're very different to, say, Taoism or Buddhism. Instead of trying to stay focused completely in the here and now, we learn to take the important stuff from the past and to learn from mistakes from the past and to have a perspective on the future and to build a future with great intentionality. So it looks a bit more like that. This constant dynamic of going around all those elements of living in time. And so that's multidimensional. You're in your past, your present, and your future in some way all at once. And maybe you're in eternity or in parallel universes if you like to daydream as well. Paradoxes come into every single thing we look at. To have real wisdom, you have to be able to see the other side, the shadow side, but sometimes to see the light side of the shadow and to take both into account. They seem opposites, they seem contradictory, but they're actually the power of life. Exactly the way thunderstorms work, where you have positives and negatives, which together create the movement and the power, or how a battery works, where you have electrons getting back to the other side, so you have the flow of electrons, and that creates the power. It is the tensions of your life. It is the conflicts and opposites that are actually feeding your anxious energy to have a flow of life happening at all. So the trick, the real wisdom, comes from seeing how positives and negatives work together and how they relate. And this is where we go to Hegel with the idea of dialectics. Dialectics is to see that there is a tension. So, for instance, there is a tension between my view of myself as I was in the past, as opposed to your view about me as I am now in the present. And together, by talking through this, we may come to synthesize this into a wider view of what is possible in the future. So that's an example of a dialectical way forward, which is not about compromise, that I would use when I work with a couple existentially. And by the way, I do contribute to an Existential Academy existential couple therapy course every year. And if you're interested in that, just speak to Helen. So, tensions. What do we do with them? Ignore them? Curse them? No, we face them. So physically, you have to face the possibility of your death and pain. And if you do that, you stand a good chance of actually living your life. If you don't face it, you'll have an unlived life and you'll live in constant fear. If you don't take up the social challenge of your fear of loneliness and rejection, then you will end up isolating yourself, being bullied, or maybe becoming a bully yourself. But if you allow that in yourself, you will come to understand yourself and also have a chance to be understood. Your personal life, the challenge is to face the fear of your own weakness and your own failure. If you don't do that, and you harden a sort of false image of yourself, you will come across as a narcissist. Or if you give up on yourself, you become self-destructive. But if you allow to see that part of who you are, you can also gain strength and stamina and courage. Spiritually, to face up to the possibility of meaninglessness and futility brings you the possibility of creating an ethics to live by. Whereas if you don't do it, you can only become fanatical or apathetic. So this is a very important way to gain your work towards wisdom. And this is crucial. Working with your feelings in an existential way. Suppression of feelings always leads to dysfunction. This is where I am in absolute agreement with, well, both psychoanalysis and CBT, really. And I would say depression is often actually generated by you feeling oppressed or by oppressing yourself or suppressing yourself. And anxiety is about finding the energy to face challenges. Your feelings are how you attune to the world, as Heidegger said. We pick up messages, moods, and atmospheres the whole time, and we resonate with them and we pass them on. So you're constantly attuning to the world, and so you need a compass to see how you are attuning and how you are finding yourself. And so I created this emotional compass that helps you understand why you feel high at times, why you feel low at times, why you feel desirous at times and despairing at other times, why you can feel you can do the work of love at some times and where you run away in fear at other times, and all of these other emotions. They are not placed in those particular spaces by chance. This is like the color spectrum. It works like this. Any emotion that makes you feel you're going upwards towards something will cause you anxiety. So all on the left there, all these emotions are anxious emotion, but you can learn to feel how they're also about excitement and engagement with the world. And all the emotions on the right side going downwards are depressing emotions of disappointment and disengagement. And that basic principle of understanding how emotions are either about the upswing of anxiety or the downswing of depression will explain to you why everybody always feels anxious and depressed. That is how it is. And we have to get used to it. You can't be wise until you understand this and accept it. So there are basically 4 kinds of emotions. Some are emotions that come when your values are threatened and you feel you're going down from that high place and you want to fight that. Then in the lower right quadrant, there are emotions of flight. They're when you're feeling you're losing your values. And then on the left side, bottom, there are emotions of feeling frozen, where you aspire to value, but you despair over ever being able to get them. And then at the top left corner, there are emotions of finding values and gaining them. So a little bit more detail. Emotions of threat to value, fighting emotions are pride, which is to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. It's like holding on to a superior position. Jealousy, which is to say, you can't have that, that's mine. and anger, which is to say, how dare you take that from me, I'll fight you over it. So that is a downward slope from pride to jealousy to anger. You can play with that in lots of ways. The ones that are about loss of value are despair, where you're giving up on holding on to your value, the fear, where you run away from the value because it's too dangerous, and the sorrow, which takes you right to the bottom of disappointment and loss, where you lose your value. Then as you try to aspire again, you feel frozen. It's hard to loosen up. It's hard to get over the shame of being so deprived of everything that is of value. It starts climbing up by envying what other people have and then getting in touch with your own desire. Then you come to the upper left quadrant where you're gaining value, which is about hoping for things, which is affirming things, loving things or people, which is doing the work of understanding and being together, and joy when it actually works. And then you're at the top and it starts all over again, because all of our lives, our emotions are there accompanying us, telling us what is happening in our relationships to the world at all these different dimensions. So mastering your emotional life is a very important element of finding wisdom. I do not believe that wisdom comes from blocking your emotions, diminishing your emotions, or denying your emotions. And anyone who claims to be a saint or an enlightened person but has given up on their capacity to feel has not quite done the work, I would say. So there is one of the most up-to-date versions of everything I've been telling you just now about emotions. So that's the sort of template to use if you want to understand what's happening for you. And obviously existential therapists would help you with that. This whole journey towards wisdom is about realizing that as you move with your actions in your life beyond the obstacles from past to future and learn to work with your values, that what is possible, what is potential, is always much, much greater than what is actually there now in your present. So this is about becoming responsible to life. Viktor Frankl spoke about this too. He said, at the end of the day, it is about learning to listen to life and what these events that are happening to you are confronting you with, and how you want to respond to these challenges. And it is only those who take that responsibility seriously and become able to use their freedom in a way that is beneficial not just to themselves but to others too, that are on that path towards wisdom. And remember, that always goes through lots of challenges and adversity and lots of difficult feelings and disappointments. But if you're trying to avoid all of that, you are not on the path to wisdom, because courage only grows when you face difficulty, anxiety, and despair. And I love this saying, a ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. You can make yourself relatively safe, but you will find fate bringing more and more other challenges into your life inevitably. It's all about living in an awakened way. I strongly recommend Lisa Miller's book on the awakened brain, where she's done all the research on this and has shown that highly spiritual brains, people who have wisdom, people who are doing all of this, are basically brains that are alight, that are strong and robust, whereas depressed brains are weak and withered and switched off. It's all about how engaged you are and how much you allow yourself to experience and work out. So the more connections you create in that brain, the higher your level of understanding. It brings awe and transcendence and synchronicity and re-enchantment into your life to be on that path. She also found, and this is stunning to me, that you are 35 to 75% less likely to be depressed. It also leads to much greater longevity. And this last one is amazing. You are 40 to 80% less likely to be substance dependent if you awaken your brain. So how do we do it? Wisdom in a nutshell. Use your body as a vehicle for survival, as an instrument, a channel, a computer, an avatar. Look after it, appreciate it, move it, nurture it, give it enough rest. Nature and your senses are intricately connected, so be in nature a lot. Have a disciplined practice of making your body more flexible, be attentive to it, care for it, be passionate about it, balance it. There is raw energy there that will heal your body, transform your body, if you pay attention to it in that way. Use the ego you create to make it in this world with other people and be respectful of it. Don't let it dominate your life, but make sure it is strong and that you can live amongst others without fear, that you can be clear and careful, and that you can be respectful of others as well as respectful of yourself, and that you can be in company, feeling you have something to contribute and be part of a community because you are contributing something and also therefore getting something back. Work with your feelings, don't fear them, learn to trust them, let them guide you. This will give you strength, you will feel supported and supportive. You'll become capable of mutuality with others and cooperation and generosity, which is often a key to making relationships work. Generosity. And of course, a lot of people would say, and generosity also comes through forgiveness rather than holding on to grudges with others. Sometimes you need to challenge others. Don't be afraid of conflict. Be resolute in taking confrontation when necessary, but find a gentle way through it. Show people how it can be done. With yourself, your inner world, develop your character. Your inner world will be full of opinions, media messages, advice, labels, judgments, all sorts. Keep cleaning it out. Keep clearing it out. Make that an inner sanctuary where you create a beautiful garden instead of something that's full of weeds. Pay attention to your thoughts, your memories, your imagination. Make deliberate room for calm throughout the day. Create peace for yourself. You'll figure this out for yourself so that you can have reflective moments with yourself and you feel, buoyed up by that. Have self-compassion and self-respect. Find clarity and new vision and always new focus. You are the place and the space where life is happening. You are very important. You create the light. You allow the light through you. Let it be clear. Your spirit, find new inspiration, find new meanings all the time. Be in awe. Go out there, watch the stars, watch the sunsets, the sunrises, do new things, ask new questions, read new things, learn new things. Inner peace comes from openness and trust in there being something to be in harmony with, however you think of that. If you have a religion, you will have a particular idea of how that works, so that might help. If you have a more existential open view, you also need to find out what you trust in. Personally, I just trust in life and in the process of life and in the universe, or in the global sense of everything fitting together and making meaning. So learn from your past, live in time, have a creative future, an open mind, and a sense of being part of this process of evolution. I am going to stop there because we do need to have the last 10 minutes for questions and conversation, and there is too much other stuff here, so we won't go through Tilik and all that, but there will be other times, my friends. We will get back to some of these things, and I just want you to think what will help you to change your darkness into light and to find your path and your transformation and your courage to be on your journey and to find your rest when you need to, because sleep is essential to keep that brain going. Open your eyes to the universe. Keep mirroring and magnifying each other's light and pass the light on. Keep your little flame burning so that you are a source of light in the world and can live deliberately, seeking truth and becoming more and more empowered. Don't forget that it takes time and that we rub up against each other a lot, but that is how pebbles in the sea get worn down and smooth out their edges too. So don't worry about the pain of that. Even sea glass becomes beautiful over years and decades just from being thrown about in the waves. So don't seek happiness, but seek all these other great values in life: love and truth and beauty and loyalty and other honor and courage and freedom and many other things beside. Thank you for being here today. I hope it helps you to find wisdom. If you want to take pictures of these references, go ahead. These are my own books. If you want to take pictures of this brief bibliography of some of the books I've mentioned, go ahead, take a picture. And then finally, here are some contact details. If you want to have those, take a picture. And that's it, my friends. I will stop sharing and we can have a short conversation together. Gee, really, we now need another 2 hours of conversation to do it properly. So, any questions, first of all?
Hi.
Go ahead, Eva. Speak. Open your microphone, Eva, and speak. Open your microphone.
I have some words, not question. My name is Eva. I was born in Romania and I live in Israel for 50 years. My native language is Hungarian. First of all, I want to share with you the joy of witnessing a turning point toward peace in the Middle East, to share with you the hope that my children and grandchildren, like other people in the world, will live a life in which their dream and desire will be fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Second, I am glad I met Emmy, you. I believe that people really need the support of applied existentialist philosophy and psychology to be able to live their chosen path and develop the capacity for respect with great R and tolerate with great T, tolerate others.
Well, thank you, Eva. That is an amazing statement. I think you're right. Yes, go.
And the last, just a minute. And the last, I am a little excited. I never speak in English. And the last, Hungarian writer Laszlo Krasznahorkal is a long
I don't
name,
know.
has won yesterday the 2025 Nobel Prize in literature in France is better, for his compelling and visionary oeuvre that in the midst of apocalypse, terror reaffirms the power of art. I quote him, I wish for everybody to get back the ability to use their fantasy, to read books, to be richer because the reading gives us more power to survive this very difficult time on the earth.
Absolutely. This is it. We need to come back with something positive in negative times, and we do need ideas that bring the whole world together. We need all of those
I
things.
must share this feeling.
Thank you so much, and I will definitely go and find him, which will be easy to do looking at the Nobel Prizes.
To speak.
And I will definitely read this author who is new to me and now a Nobel Prize winner. Thank you, Eva. As always,
thank you,
you contribute so much. Eva is in my inner circle group
for
on
your
YouTube.
support. Thank you.
She is super. Thank you. So, Helen Cat, you have your hand up. Speak.
Hello. I was curious about you mentioned about suppression sort of leading to dysfunction.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in, I suppose, also about self-discipline and restricting, one's desires in and how those two interrelate.
Yes, well, there you are. You just got a hold of another paradox, haven't you? It's very important to bear that in mind. Yes, on the one hand, we need to free ourselves and listen to our feelings and be in the flow. And on the other hand, we need to be purposeful and we need to know that sometimes the feelings are not what dictate what we're going to do, but we're going to be action orientated and purposeful and focused, because otherwise nothing gets done. Now, I think the art is in the wisdom, is in learning to have those things happening at the same time, to be fully engaged, but to still be fully open to your feelings as well. But being open to your feelings never means that you're going to let them topple you. or dominate you or direct you. They're just an indication of where you're going and where you're headed. And you can work with your feelings and you can make them work for you rather than them directing your life. So it is again, yes, thank you for bringing that particular paradox that hasn't come out in the talk at all. Thank you for bringing that and showing the importance of that constant balancing in life. Being alive is like being on a bicycle. It's like you have to have a direction and a sense of where you're going because it is a balancing act, but it is not a problem to balance once you're on that bicycle. Once you have that momentum and you know where you're going, it is much easier. Azat, over to you. Open your mic.
Hi, Emmy. I picked up on the notion of evasion and distraction from the Simon
Heidegger.
Heidegger.
Yeah.
And I have to say, whenever I read a little bit of anything written by Noam Chomsky, I wonder how much of that is manufactured and, on a societal level.
How do you mean? That society makes us to be distracted deliberately? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it does it deliberately, but it definitely does it. I mean, when I look at my life and how much better it has gotten since I have stopped being in charge of all my organizations, and before that, since I stopped commuting, and spending so much time just being part of the whole of that world, pushing you this way and that way and scaring you this way and demanding this and making this impossible and that desirable. It's just so much stuff going on all the time. You lose track. You lose track. It really does take knowledge and wisdom to begin to see how this is being done to you and how you can pause and pace yourself and understand things better. So thank you for that question. Very important point indeed. Haran, over to you.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for the great talk. Just a question really about nowadays. Does it feel like clients are struggling more with the modern world, would you say, compared to the past? I mean, we often say that we're in difficult times now. Do you think it's materially different to the past? Are we in particularly
it's
complicated
different.
times? Yeah.
It's different. It's different at any age and at any time. But I tell you for free that I would rather not live in the Middle Ages because I think that would be bloody impossible. And I would rather not have lived at the beginning of the 20th century and having to take myself through the First World War and the Second World War. I think there are many ways in which we know more, we can work things out better, we can be better with each other. We're gaining, we're definitely evolving. But by Jove, it's hard come by, and we have loads of new obstacles and new difficulties and new problems. Every age throws new challenges at us, but we should not let ourselves be discouraged by that because overall, I think the pattern is there's more connectivity. Man, look at us. Here we are, come together from all around the world, and we're all understanding what we're talking about. We all know the importance of these issues, and we all know how we struggle with these things and how it's never easy. There are no simple answers. It's hard work, but we know it's hard work. We know what needs to be done, and we know there are lots of people of goodwill and good thinking who want to get together to do these things. And that is what makes me feel optimistic, and more optimistic now than ever in history before, I would say.
Yes. A good angle. Thank you.
Steven Pinker is being mentioned in the chat. The better angels of our nature. Steven Pinker, of course, is the champion of this argument. that life has never been as good as it is now, and that we're much better protected than ever in history. It's a very worthwhile argument, which I refer to in my new book as well. Thank you, Alina, for putting that there. Brilliant. Isn't it brilliant how a little community like this, in a matter of 2 hours, starts functioning as a communicative vehicle for more and more information and coming together? I'm sad to say it's 1 o'clock and we need to say goodbye, but thank you for being there. It's been an enjoyable 2 hours for me, and I hope you take something with you from it, and it has inspired you to have a bit more power and energy in your life. Open your
Thank you.
microphones and say goodbye to each other. Open your microphones and speak to
Bye.
anyone you
Thank you, Amy.
Goodbye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Amy.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day and a good week.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.